chronic pain. I don't know why for sure that I recognized it. I know that when I was in first grade, I had a friend named Ricky Wheeler that was in a wheelchair from cerebral palsy, and he was all curled up all the time. He couldn't uncurl himself, so I knew he was you could tell he was in constant pain. You could tell, you know. And I think maybe because of that, I realized that everybody has different things they deal with day to day. Everybody has different little pains, aches and pains. Sometimes it's emotional pain or depression. And we don't know why. We don't know if they are suffering because they don't show it, they don't tell us. You say, hey, how are you doing today? They say, I'm doing great, how about yourself? And you go on with your life, day to day, working with people, and you really don't know if they suffer from some kind of a chronic pain, a chronic illness. Lots of time you don't know if they can breathe properly, if they have asthma or COPD, because you can't see those kind of things. You see them walking through the grocery store and they look like a quote-unquote normal person, and so you figure that they're okay. But you don't know if they bend over too far that they fall, they can't stop themselves from falling. You don't know if they have trouble walking. You don't know if they have constant pain in their legs, or in their heart, or in their chest, because you can't see those things. And the doctors can't even see it. It's hard for them to diagnose it. 13 years ago I fell when I was working. And I caught myself with my right arm before I hit the ground. I grabbed the hold of the machine and it held myself up. But man, it hurt my right arm really bad. And I had to work through 3 days of work. It's a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday. Lots of work that had to be done. And I had to do it. So on Monday I called, and I couldn't sleep, and so I called the doctor on Monday and I told him I had to see him. He did an x-ray on my shoulder and he didn't really see any damage. He said, but he said it is swollen. He says, why don't we go ahead and take a couple of weeks off and get some rest and relaxation on that arm, and then go back to work. And I said, okay, that's great. So I filled up my paperwork that I thought I was supposed to fill out and proceeded to stay home for 2 weeks. Right at the end of the 2 weeks, I got a notice from Laborers and Industries, which is a workman's compensation, and they said they were denying my claim. And I didn't understand why. They said my paperwork was out of order. So it's crazy. I wrote my paperwork out the way I was supposed to be done. I don't know what they're talking about. They said they didn't get a whole report. I said it was crazy. And I called the doctor up and I said, man, I'm not getting any money. I got to go back to work. And so he said, okay, and he put me back to work after 2 weeks. And I figured, what the hell, I'm back to work. I don't need L&I. Fuck them. I'll just go ahead and make up my differences as much as I can. I don't care if they denied me. I'm back to work, even though I'm suffering from this chronic pain. And it was really weird because it felt like there was, like, you know, when you hit your funny bone on your elbow, that's what it felt like all the time. My elbow felt like it's constantly having somebody hit me on the funny bone. And there was this shooting pain that went from my shoulder all the way down to my elbow and then it shot down to the back of my hand. And the back of my hand feels like they're on fire all the time. They feel raw. Like you fell down and they're skinned the shit out of them, you know what I mean? That's what that feels like on the back of my hand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the front of my hands are numb. They feel like they're asleep. It's a very peculiar situation to have pain on one side so severe and then on the other side it feels like they're asleep. And when I cut myself, I can barely even feel it. I can't feel it when I burn myself because there's so much pain already there and the numbness on the front. And that's how it is on both of my arms, all the way down. And as I went back to work, it kept getting worse and worse. And I couldn't understand what was going on. I started getting dizzy for no reason. And I started tripping over things and falling. And though I'd been injured in August of 2004, I went back to the doctor in May of 2005 and told him about this. And so I did an MRI on my upper torso. And when he did, he said he saw scaling. He called it scaling on my neck. That's what he thought it was. And I said, okay. And he said, I think you might have multiple sclerosis, so let's work through the summer and see how it develops. I said, okay, that sounds great. So I worked through that summer of 2005, and in September of 2005 I went back to the doctor, and he said, well, he says, there's nothing different. And he said, I don't think. He said, why don't we just go ahead and send you to a neurologist and see what they say. And so I said, okay, and I'm thinking, what's next? Some kind of psychiatrist or something? So he sends me to a neurologist, and the neurologist looks at my MRI and says, it's not multiple sclerosis at all. She says, you fractured your neck from your second to your seventh vertebrae in your neck. And your disc between your fourth and fifth vertebrae had been completely blown out and destroyed. So she says, what we need to do is have you go to a neurosurgeon. So she sent me to a neurosurgeon. And I went to the neurosurgeon, and he said that what they would do is go through the front of my neck, and they'd go through and take out all the chips that they could. And they'd go ahead and clean out as much as they could, and they'd replace the the disc with a piece of bone off of my hip. That sounded really fun. And then as it got closer and closer to the surgery, they decided that they could use cadaver bone instead, so I wouldn't have to have the cut on my hip. They just go ahead and take cadaver bone and clean it out really good and use it for a disc in my neck. So I went in for the surgery and wore the little collar and stuff, and it just didn't do any good. And I couldn't go back to work, but I mean, I was in constant pain, and I lost the use of my legs as far as running. I can't run at all. Not at all. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And walking, you have to think about every step you're taking. Every single step you have to consider what you're doing. You have to think about it, because you feel like you got these knees or this bouncy part in your leg. Your legs are bouncing like that all the time when you walk. And that's why it's really tough when I'm carrying the camera and you'll see it jerking like that. It's because that's what it is. It's bouncing, and it feels like that all the time. And it's constant, this neuropathy. It's a nerve pain, and there's nothing they can do for it. There's nothing they can do for it. There's no drugs that do anything. They can give you narcotics, which will put you in a stupor and make you fall asleep, which is great. I mean, you know, I used to be a big time stoner. I was a real big stoner. I love getting high. I used to love to take pills. I used to love to take downers and narcotics. I wasn't a speed guy. I never liked speed, but I loved downers and narcotics. I thought that was great stuff. But you know what? That was when it was drugs. When it's medicine, it's not any fun at all. It's just not any fun anymore. And it doesn't do any good. I don't want to be all drugged out and not know what I'm doing. I loved that when I was 17, but not when I'm fucking 60. Not when I was 50, when I fell and everything. I didn't want that. And you know, when this kind of stuff happens and that they tell you you're disabled, then you have to file with the Social Security so you can get some help. Otherwise, you're not going to have any money coming in. Because L&I said they weren't going to cover it. And then when they found out it was broken neck, they weren't covering that either, because they didn't cover the initial injury, so they're not going to cover this either. So I totally got screwed. I got dropped by the company. I got dropped by L&I. I got dropped by my union. No one stood up for me. Not a single person stood up for me. So you get this neuropathy, and you get a little emotional pain with that, and you get a little angry, and people say, well, why are you so angry? Well, you got this constant pain that no one's covering. No one gives a goddamn about it. And you got to go to all these doctors to prove that you've got this. And you go to all these doctors over and over again, and in the process, you don't have any money coming in. So you have to file for welfare. For welfare. Do you know what that's like? Do you know how important that is? Do you know what that makes it feel like? You know what that does to your self-esteem? That you have to file for welfare after working for over 30 years? It's not fun. It's not easy. to go down and start begging because you need help. Before that, you were a big, strong guy. You carry things on the back, no problem. Everything washed off your back, no problems at all. And now you got to beg for help. You got to ask for help. And so you ask for help, and they look at you like, yeah, right. You don't look bad to me. You're not all crippled to me. You're just sitting around. You don't do anything. You don't look crippled to me. You don't look like you're hurting. Of course I don't look like I'm hurting. Of course I don't. When you ask me at the store, how are you doing? I say, oh, I'm doing great. How about yourself? It's a great day, isn't it? It's beautiful outside. Oh, I love it when it's raining. I love it when it's snowing. I love it, whatever. Of course I'm going to make it. I don't make it seem like it's bad all the time. So you get all this pain, and you start realizing other people so much. You ask for welfare, you get $339 a month. Can you pay your rent with $339 a month? Tell me how you're going to pay your rent now. $339 a month. My rent at the time was $580. That's what my rent was in a little tiny one-bedroom apartment here in Everett, Washington. And they gave me $339 a month. Luckily, I had a good landlord. I had to get rid of almost everything I had in order to make up until that point. I had to beg, borrow, and steal all kinds of shit just so I could make it. You know? What are you supposed to do when you get to that point? When you're asking for help and they're not giving you enough. And then finally, I had to hire a lawyer to get my disability. And I hired the lawyer, and he had all these doctors look at me, and they had a government doctor look at me. And when the government doctor looked at me, he said, when I walked in, he said, you don't have to do anything else. He said, I saw you walk. I can see what's wrong. I know what it is. Spondylosis, something like that. Plus the whole thing. Can't think what it's called now. You know? And you look at these other people as you're sitting there, and you don't know why they're there, but it's not easy to ask for help. It's not fun to ask for help. And so you don't know why they have to ask for help. Do they have chronic pain? Do they have an illness you can't see? Did they just have quadruple bypass surgery that you don't know about? You don't know why the other person hurts. And you don't know what it takes for the other person to get knocked down so many times they have to ask for help because they can't do it by themselves anymore. And when you see the people on the street with the sign that still said, we'll work for food. Yeah, lots of them won't do a thing for food. That's okay. Why are they in that position? Why do they feel like that? Why is little Mikey on the street in a wheelchair? Why are these people there? You don't know because you haven't lived their lives. You don't know what pain they've been in. You don't know what drama or trauma they've survived. You don't know what makes them feel that way. And if they ask for help, they probably need the help. If they're stealing food, they probably need to eat. And chronic pain will do that to a person. They just give up. If they can't get help anymore, they just give up and they say, to hell with it all. Just live on the streets and deal with it that way. And then you start getting into drugs on the streets because that's the only thing that helps. Drugs and alcohol. It kills you off quick. But hey, you know, deadens the pain a little bit. But instead you can take medical marijuana with CBD, and that helps a lot of people. It helps with the emotional pain, and it will take my mind off of my neuropathy just for a few minutes at a time. And I have to smoke a little bit more, or eat a little bit more, or take a little bit more, vape a little bit more, and in a few more minutes I'll get relief. And those few minutes, it's like heaven almost, you know. It's like I'm living and I feel like I used to feel. It doesn't mean I can go out and run, because I can't go out and run. But because I've taken it upon myself to start walking no matter what, I can walk now. It doesn't mean the pain's gone, but it means I'm walking. I can go out and walk. I can go out and walk and keep my heart beating, you know. I can't run, which I wish I could. I wish I could go out and play basketball again. That's my dream, is to go out and play basketball again. Be able to run up and down the court and shoot the ball. But it hurts for me to even put my arms above my head, because anything that you do that involves your neck, my neck, it's going to make it hurt more. So if I do this or something like that, man, if I do that in a hurry and not realizing it, it'll hurt for weeks after that. And they say they can do it again. They can do the surgery again now, they said. But why should I believe that? Who's going to pay for that? Am I going to have to pay for that? All I've got is my $900 a month that I got coming in from the government. Can you live on $900? Now, I'm not saying survive on $900 a month. Can you live on $900 a month? Pay your rent and your food and your utilities? It's not easy, you know. It really isn't. Chronic pain is a real bitch, and people deal with it all the time. And it's not fair. It's not fair to judge them. It's not fair to judge the people out on the street, because you don't know what it took. You don't know how many times they got kicked before they fell down and gave up. And I don't know what it would take for you to fall down and give up. I hope I never get to. Peace.